Hello and welcome to Way Too Serious, the show where we get way too serious and spend way too much time talking about things that just really don't matter. I'm Kurtis. With me, as usual, is my brother Tony. Tony, how's it going?
Not bad. How's it going with you?
All right, and we have a special guest that we already mentioned was going to be on the show, so no surprise. Our other brother, or one of our other brothers, three of four here, Andy's here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Andy does all the artwork and music for the show. The music's actually some music that he did a while ago, and if you're interested in hearing more about it, email us and we'll tell you how you can get a hold of it and hear those full songs, and maybe even get a CD if you're interested. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Sorry, Andy.
That was recorded like 10 years ago. So.
We're here to talk about Kevin Smith today, and this is going to be a two-part episode. So in part one here, we're going to get into the View Askew universe, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But first, we'll do what we do each episode and lay it out and just let you know where we're coming from about the topic before we get into it. And I'm just going to kind of lay it out for everyone here is that we're all big Kevin Smith fans. We're all big fans, especially of the View Askew movies. Am I misquoting anyone there? Misassigning some love there for anyone?
For me, besides the Dark Knight trilogy podcast I did, this was the most enjoyable preparation of a podcast. I've watched a lot of bad movies between this one and 22 MW, so this was very exciting for me.
Yeah, as a kid, I grew up on Kevin Smith movies, and it was nice to revisit some of those things that I watched all the time.
Yeah, I think we're gonna kind of talk about that. Well, we can talk about that a little bit right now, since we're laying it out, but. For me, and you guys can chime in, but for me, these movies just came around kind of at the right spot. I kind of got into them, maybe my junior or senior year of high school, and through my early years of college, were when Clerks, Mallrats, and Chasing Amy came out. When I saw those movies for the first time, and that was just a fun time in my life where I watched these movies with my friends. And we all loved them, and we all thought they were great. And, it's just real nostalgic, and it was a lot of fun back then, and it's still a lot of fun to watch them. I do maybe kind of wonder a little bit, like if I had watched some of these movies today for the first time as an adult, would I like them as much as I do now? I don't know, but it was kind of time and place for me a little bit there.
Yeah, there's definitely some nostalgia, absolutely. And rewatching them, I think I maybe loved some more than others, but it was just it's kind of like Weezer. Like whether they're good or bad, they have a place in my heart forever.
Yeah, and I'm 6 years younger than Kurtis, 3 years younger than Andy, and I don't know. I guess Andy, sometimes I could watch stuff that maybe my mom wouldn't like me watching. So I got to see Mallrats at a fairly young age and super enjoyed it. And then I remember years later in the parking or the bathroom of a Red Lobster, y'all talking about Dogma before it came out. And I don't know, there's lots of great memories about Kevin Smith movies. So
in the bathroom of a Red Lobster?
Glad you remember that, because I don't.
Yeah, good time.
Well, we're gonna get into those movies, but let's hold off for just a minute. And this episode, we're talking about An Evening with Kevin Smith. Does it hold up? If you don't know what that is, it's Kevin Smith has made a long career now out of many things, but one thing is doing Q&As with fans, and this is really where it started. He went around to, I don't have the list, but 5 or 6 colleges and did these Q&As with his fans where they asked him questions, and he gave these long-winded answers that were basically just stories about different things in the entertainment business, about these movies that he had made. And he's done this several times over, but this was the first one, and in my opinion, the best. So we're going to talk about whether it holds up. And Tony, why don't we start with you?
Okay, I think we'll get into this on the second part of this Kevin Smith podcast, in that this was kind of like his first kind of podcast thing. And it was him just standing there talking, and I think I gave him a lot of credit because I didn't know him for talking at that point. But still, super amazing. Super funny, definitely holds up. Love to watch this, especially the Superman Lives, the Prince stuff. There's so many great stories in this one. The other ones are really hit or miss, but this one is pretty much solid from top to bottom. Holds up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say this is his first podcast. Kevin Smith was doing podcasts back when no one knew what a podcast. I mean, way early in the game. I think even way before this. But I get what you're saying as far as
before 2002.
I don't think that's true. I think you're off there. I think
Yeah,
we'll have some corrections.
Right, whatever.
That's fair. I mean, this Smodcast has been going on for years, it seems, and maybe not that long. But
this came out a really long time ago.
So did the Smodcast, I guarantee you.
All right.
And I might be wrong, but
okay.
Okay.
We'll correct that next time. Oh, we forgot to do the. All right, just go on.
But anyway, I think it holds up just because they're great story. I mean, to me, it's by far the best. I mean, he's done 1 million of these DVDs, and by far, it's the best one, I think. I've seen it so many times over the years that like the same stories, they're still good, but they kind of lose their impact upon multiple viewings, kind of like your grandfather or something, telling you the same story over and over again. But just to see the crowd, which the college kids, which back then I think, what was it, 2002 where this came out, right?
Right. Yeah.
I was 19, 20 years old, maybe, I don't know, and so seeing those kind of young people as a relation to me at that time, I think Kevin Smith was maybe about the same age as I am now, maybe a little younger even. So
it's funny. I watched. What is it? Kevin Smith Burn in Hell?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
So I watched that as part of this just the other day, and it's fairly new. It's like 2011, 2012. And it's so funny to see that all the people in the audience are like going bald, and they're just really old, like me. And yeah, to go back and watch this, and it's all young people who were, again, the same age as me at the time. This came out when I was in college. Yeah, like Tony said, though, this is hysterical. What is so amazing about this the first time you saw it was like what an amazing storyteller he is. And not just, sit down and type out a story and proofread it. Just how he could just get up there and be asked a question and without having any prior knowledge of what someone's going to ask, just go off on these amazing stories, just free flow. And it really is amazing. And they're great stories. And you understand like why he's able to write such interesting stories regardless of what you think about the movie, just because he's a great storyteller. So this does hold up. I am going to give it one caveat. It holds up if you're a Kevin Smith fan. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, you watched this 10 years ago when it came out, or 12 years ago when it came out, and you watch it today, it's still going to be a great watch. You're really going to enjoy listening to the stories again. If you're maybe kind of new to Kevin Smith and you didn't get into him, I don't know. Maybe it might not hold up for you just because it's a different time and place with podcasting and whatnot. I don't know. But I really think anyone who's watched a Kevin Smith movie and enjoyed it is really going to enjoy this. So I say holds up as well.
Yeah, I think it was interesting, though, because I just rewatched it this morning, actually, and I just rented it off iTunes because I don't have the DVD anymore. But the DVD, it was 2 DVDs, right?
Yeah.
So you watched one little nugget, and then you took it out, maybe took a break or whatever, and then you pop. To watch it like just back to back, it is kind of grinding at times. But maybe that's just because I've heard these stories so many times, but it's still fantastic.
It's also the kind of thing you don't really have to watch it. You don't have to watch Kevin Smith stand up there and sweat, but what you can see is just sweating profusely if you ever watch this on a big screen.
I totally...
It's really good to listen to kind of in the background, maybe if you're working or something like that.
I totally just turned it on my phone, turned the screen off, and just listened to it like a podcast. Because essentially that's what it is. It's just him up there telling stories like he does on his podcast. So
you have to see what.
Well, they dance at one point. You get to see.
Well, does the screen? John Peters does the screen. Yeah, so you got to see that.
You got to see certain things. Yeah. The guys that pretend to be Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, but there's only like 5 or 6 spots, and it's not the end of the world. So I think this is available on YouTube. I don't know if it's legally available on YouTube, but you could just kind of listen to it in the background while you're at work. But I think that's enough about that. So
Yeah, you're right, though. You did skip the corrections. I was really hoping we could hear some of those.
Yeah, we skipped the correction. So correction 1, we missed the corrections. We didn't do it in the right spot. We have 2 corrections. One was on our AFI top 5. I was kind of listing out the quotes that are kind of in the lexicon from Casablanca, and I said, play it again. So I got that wrong on both accounts because the actual quote is play it Sam, and the common misquoted quote is play it again Sam. Either way, I got it wrong, so I was incorrect there. It's not play it again. It's play it Sam is the actual quote. And in the kind of context I was going for, which was the quotes that people say today, it was play it again Sam. Either way, I was wrong. And Andy, I believe, has a correction from our first episode, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Andy, you want to fill us in on what we screwed up there?
Yeah, and you said you may have corrected this. I didn't catch it if you did, but I think Tony said that the villain in The Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton was Eli Roth, which he was in fact Tim Roth.
All right.
Shame
so
on me.
I didn't go back and listen to it. You told me that I didn't go back and listen to it. Tony filled in for me because I couldn't remember which one it was, and I didn't want to say the wrong one. And I thought Tony said the right one, but I don't know.
Yeah, leave it to Tony.
Yeah, I did say the wrong one. Shame on me. My bad.
Well, you took the fall for me because I didn't want to say the wrong. I was going to say Tim though.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Eli Roth. He's a movie director and whatnot. He played Bear Jew on Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
So granted, they're both in Tarantino films, but it's just that was the confusion.
Eli Roth has been on Talk is Jericho and Doug Loves Movies, some other podcasts I listen to, so I guess maybe that's why I pulled that.
And isn't really so much a correction, I guess, just a clarification from our mini episode that Tony and I did, Simpsons Family Guy crossover, when Tony asked me the trivia questions, and he said the full name of the founder of Shelbyville was
Shelbyville, Manhattan.
Shelbyville, Manhattan. I said I didn't know about that. I didn't say it was incorrect. I said I don't know if that is correct. I meant to go back and watch the episode that he's in. I didn't do that, but I did go on the Simpsons wiki page, and per it, Tony is correct. So we'll just say he's correct, and that my assertion that maybe it wasn't correct was, well, I can't say that's wrong or right because I didn't say definitively one way or the other. But good job, Tony. Simpsons wiki page says you're right.
All right.
Any other corrections? Who's got something else?
I think that's enough. I think.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Right. Well, hey, let's just get into the View Askew films here, and let's just start going through the films chronologically, and start with Clerks from 1994. This is the movie that, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, you know that he basically dropped out of film school. Not even really film school; it was a film program, and shot this for about $28,000 in his hometown on credit card debt, and it became a pretty big success and led to all the stuff he's done now. So, Tony, you want to get us started on this one?
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example of what Kevin Smith films are known for, and that's great dialogue and great characters. And I think it does a really great job of establishing Dante and Randall and Jay and Silent Bob in these movies. And it really portrays them as Dante's seems like a good dude. He just whines a lot. Randall's a little bit of a jerk, but he's got a soft side. And Jay and Silent Bob, I guess maybe in this movie you don't really get to see more than just they're a couple of stoners that want to be slackers and stuff like that. But the dialogue in this movie, I think Kevin Smith always kind of talks about that this isn't how his friends really talk, but this is the way he wishes they talk. But I think that's created a culture to where people actually really love to have conversations like this.
Yeah, I think this movie really kind of just spoke to a generation that everyone calls the slacker generation, and this was a movie kind of about that. And it was about, to me, even as I get older and slack less and get more responsibility, I still kind of connect with this movie just because it kind of just reminds you, maybe you could always be in a better spot, or you could always try a little harder, or you could always be a little more successful, but you should also kind of be happy where you are too, and that there's a kind of dichotomy there that works real well in this movie, and carries on to Clerks 2, which we'll talk about later. But on top of that, it is a very funny movie. Me and my friends just had so much fun. We watched this so many times and just die laughing, and you would, find something funny that you missed the first time or something like that. It really was amazing that he was able to put this together the way he did, with some friends, not much money, and come out with what is a really good movie, with not what just we think is a good movie, but lots of people think is a good movie, lots of critics think is a good movie, and what got him a career based on this one movie.
Yeah, I think it definitely, there's a big running trend, and I don't know if Kevin Smith started it or what, but in the 90s, there was a lot of movies about young people just sitting around talking about their feelings, and being a sensitive artist myself, I can totally relate. I gotta say though, like watching it again, just to look at it felt very claustrophobic to me. It just felt.
Well, that was because they had to shoot it at night inside the place where he worked, which was the Quick Stop.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of, it's just kind of when you did it for $28,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry they didn't have any big crane shots or anything like that.
Anyway, but I really, I really dug it. I don't think I dug it as much as I did when I first saw it, and Salsa Shark. God, that's hard to say. It's probably my favorite part of the whole movie. I don't know. It's just hilarious. But all in all, it's very inspiring to see what you can do just when you put your mind to it, even if it's not the best looking thing in the world. And then again, we were, as kids, we were really big into street hockey.
Yeah,
and
I was interested.
And I don't know if I would say that Airborne was probably a big factor of that. I don't know if this movie, in fact, was a proponent of us getting into that, but it just...
I think by the time we watched this movie, we were probably a little bit older.
Same with Airborne. We were playing
so.
Hockey before we ever saw Airborne, too, so... Maybe Mighty Ducks 1 was it? I don't know.
Maybe so. I don't know. But I still think this movie's really good today. Does it look great? No, but for what it's worth, for what kind of message it gives, what kind of characters it gives, the way it presents itself, it's way better than the way it looks, and that just really goes to show, you don't have to have a huge budget, you don't have to have the greatest actors of all time. If you work hard, if you put together a good story, if you write good characters, if it all comes together, you can overcome some of those things. That'd be a nice lesson for today, where everything's got to be $200 million budget, and you got to have Ben Affleck play everyone. And
well, doesn't Kevin Smith do that?
I think we'll get into this later with or probably in part 2, but also this was his life at the time, and so it really shows that he was super connected with what was going on in these people's world, and helped make for a better movie. I know when he made Zack and Miri, he talked about how he had completely lost touch with that, and this movie is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, it's where he was, and it was a starting off point. And I know from creating different things that I've done throughout my life, I'm such a perfectionist that I just don't want to let anything go until it's absolutely perfect. And sometimes it just doesn't have to be that. It can just be good for what it is. And if you can improve upon it or not, you need some kind of starting block. And so it really I got to commend him on that for sure.
Yeah, I'm not super down on the look of the movie. I don't mind it like y'all do, but I will say every couple of years I have to get my eyes dilated, and this is the number one movie for to watch when you have dilated eyes.
All right, well, we're moving on to the follow-up, Mallrats, 1995. Basically, the success of Clerks got him his first studio big budget picture, although it was $6 million and not much of a studio. But this movie for me, I'm going to start off with this. This movie for me, look, I still think this movie's funny. I still have a lot of laughs watching it. Had a lot of laughs growing up watching it. to me, this is of the first three definitely, because I kind of separate those three just because those are the three I grew up watching with all my friends. This isn't the worst one, and it's maybe the funniest one, but just movie wise, a lot of the performances are not great, especially whichever London brother. He's terrible.
Clerks were, though.
Yeah, they were way better. Is it Jeremy or Jason London who's in this one? I always forget.
It's Jason.
Andy will correct me on a future podcast. I'm not going to say.
Whichever one it was, it's the one who's not in Dazed and Confused. And he is so terrible in this movie. Yeah. And also, this movie had a lot of problems production-wise. They kept having to rewrite and reshoot.
They even wanted to recast in some cases. So.
Yeah, they even tried to recast Jay. This. I'm not saying that this isn't a fun watch. I'm not saying that if you're a fan of these movies that this is a terrible movie. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is not my favorite of the bunch. Just because it had some issues. That said, it's still got some awesome characters. Love Brody. And that character kind of led to Banky, which is maybe my favorite character in all of these movies. Loved Ben Affleck, Shannon Hamilton, even though he wasn't in this a lot. This is a good movie. It's just not my favorite of the bunch.
See, I'm going to chime in here and throw in my. I think that because I rewatched it last weekend, I think, and God knows how many times I watched this movie as a kid. I mean, Tony, any clue how many?
I want to say it was your favorite movie, Once Upon a Time, right?
Yeah, well, it absolutely was.
It probably was mine, Once Upon a Time.
And so, and going into rewatching it, because I hadn't watched it in quite a few years, I was hesitant because you want to hold on to those great memories, right? And so I was hesitant going into it, but I have to say that I could not disagree with Kurtis more. The fact that out of all the movies I rewatched in the last week or so, by far, this is my favorite. Absolutely. It's just, especially, I talked about how confining Clerks was. This was a mall. It was just a vast scape of anything that could happen, will happen, and could happen. It's so funny, so well written. The acting, it's got Jason, the London guy was there. The chick, oh my God, Brandy Spinning.
Claire Forlani, I believe her name is. She was not good in this either.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. But Jason Lee, he's so overacts in this, but it's just so perfect. Just the fact that everything is the end of the world. Everything that comes out of his mouth.
There's a lot to like in this movie.
And it was just, they go to the dirt mall, and that probably could have been cut out, I think. But it segues into the woman with three nipples telling the fortune that gets him the catalyst essentially for the third act. So I get it, but I just had so much fun with this movie. To revisit it and it almost be better than you remember it to be is which is so weird though that we could be so polar opposites.
Well, Tony, I'll give you a chance to comment, but just to respond to Andy a little bit, is just this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the first. Is I wonder if it wasn't a little bit time and place. And this is the movie that kind of makes me think that I really think if I had never seen any of these movies and I just sat down and watched Mallrats as a 35-year-old man, that I would think it was really stupid. That said, I watched it many, many times as a 19 to 22-year-old and thought it was hysterical, that I still do when I watch it today. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
I mean, but isn't that a huge part of why you love movies? Is the effect they had on you in that time and place?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, if you look at the AFI top 5, you think anyone is watching Singing in the Rain today, going heck yeah, Singing in the Rain, baby? No, it's not happening.
No, but we also called them out on that, so okay. I'm calling myself out on it too. Look, I'm not hating on this movie. I hate how you can't say anything negative or it means you're hating on something.
I'm just saying it was mostly negative. I think.
I'm not I always hate that. That's something a lot. I get that from a lot of people, and it's probably just because I have a kind of a very negative tone of voice. But people, we're gonna talk about it later, maybe. But I said one negative thing about Guardians of the Galaxy, and Tony to this day still giving me crap about how much I hated it, even though I said it's my favorite of the Marvel movies, and I love the Marvel movies. So if you say anything negative about something somebody loves,
you have to do a compliment sandwich, which is where you say something great.
I believe I did that. I think I did that.
Well, remember when I talked about your wife on the show and I said the two nice things and then the one mean thing and she got upset about it?
Yeah. So you should know where I'm coming from then.
Okay. Well, I'd like to share my thoughts on this. I've heard Kevin Smith talk about this movie, and I think that Universal was expecting it to be like the next Animal House, and that as far as theater response, it just wasn't that. For me, I think Animal House is a great movie. I think this is a great movie. But I think we all just agreed that this is probably the funniest Kevin Smith movie, but the worst acted Kevin Smith movie. It's not my favorite, but it is the funniest, I think. And a huge part of that is all the characters, from LaForge to Willem, Shannon Hamilton. Across the board, it has all these little characters in this mall, and just really wraps up for a great movie that there's no doubt in my mind this still holds up. I know that's not this segment, but
well, even the end, which is kind of ridiculous, and it's somewhat marred by the terrible performances of two of the main characters. It's still great because Jason Lee is so hysterical interacting with Gil Hicks, Brian O'Hallahan, and that, and then the reactions from the Michael Rooker character and the studio exec. So even scenes like that have some big problems, and that's like the climax of the movie, it's still hilarious. And then they bring in the whole Ben Affleck thing. Who's your favorite new kid?
Call me Johnny.
So just
Call me Donnie.
just hysterical. So look, all I said was not my favorite, and it's got some things that I don't like about it. That said, I still love this movie. I had a great time rewatching it. I laughed and laughed and laughed.
Okay, quick question.
Is it just me, or does when as the movies progress, you just start to discuss Brian O'Halloran like more and more and more? I don't know. By the end of it, I can't stand the guy.
Oh, really? I think he does a great performance for the character given in both the first two movies. I think he's got a small part in the third one, but we'll get to that in a second. My question about this one is, are T.S. and Brandy Svinning two of the only characters that don't appear in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
The other Jones sister, which I'm going to talk more about that when it's a Chase and Amy, she doesn't appear. I mean, a lot of the characters from Clerks don't appear. So you're talking about from Mallrats, though, right?
Yeah.
And some of the actors I think are in, like the guy who played in Clerks. What was the like bodybuilder guy? What was his name?
Rick Darris.
Yeah. He like that actor appears in most of his movies. I don't know if he's playing.
No, he's the. Well, I want to. We're getting ahead of something because this is what I want to talk about in the next movie. Okay. So let's come back to that. But anything else on Mallrats other than it's very funny and
Curtis is a flippin' idiot for not liking it.
And like, I don't think we touched on Stan Lee. I mean, this was back when you just kind of everyone knows who Stan Lee is now, obviously.
This is the first Stan Lee cameo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, he was just great in this movie. He really was.
And he looked so young. I'd forgotten he looked like that.
He was a spry 98 back then.
Those hair plugs were probably only 15 years old at that point.
Well, actually, Tony, you wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the when we did talk a little bit about it, but the alternate cut and the original beginning and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, this was the only one that wasn't produced by either the Weinstein Company or Miramax. It was produced by Universal. And on the DVD, I don't know if the Blu-ray has it, but on the DVD they had the director's cut, which pretty much just adds the opening sequence that... I don't know.
Terrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know that it adds anything. I think there's like one line later in the movie where they reference it, but
no, there's a lot of lines that reference it, and they're overdubbed.
Okay.
Like the part where the guy comes up. My favorite is where the guy comes up in the parking lot and says, "Aren't you the guy who broke up with Brandy Svinning?" And he actually, like, it's just so random. But what he actually said was, "Weren't you the guy who was on CNN?" And T.S. just punches him. But there's so many bad dubs because they got rid of that whole CNN part. I think the part you're talking about is where Michael Rooker's character calls Brody his neighbor. That was left over from it, and they just kind of left it in because you didn't really question it. But,
well, like the executives are like, we're not going to have another scene from the governor's man or whatever was said. It was mentioned.
Yeah. So there were a couple mentions about it, but mostly there was just a lot of bad overdubbing. And they had to reshoot the ending because of it. So the ending looks weird because it very visibly switches between different lighting, and the hair of some of the characters looks different. You can really see the difference. And
I think they spent most of their money on putting mustard on Ethan Suplee's shirt. How much mustard was on that guy's shirt?
It's a big shirt.
An excessive amount, I think.
You know what's even better than the edit that version is the TV version, which I've tried to find a copy of on YouTube or something. I saw this on TV once, and this movie is hysterical on TV. If you watch the commentary, they talk about some of it, but it's so funny on TV because the guy they got to overdub Jay sounds nothing like Jay, but obviously they had to like dub over like 90% of what he says.
Was Jason Mewes? Was
what?
Jason Mewes not available? I mean, was he?
I don't think he could say words that don't have swear words in them. But I mean, it was just hysterical. They had to get rid of all the pot references and that there were just scenes where they had to like zoom in on stuff. It's hysterical. I haven't seen it in like 15 years.
Do you recall what they replaced the Ben Affleck scene at the end? The Who's Your Favorite New Kid scene?
They replaced it with the alternate shot they shot where he's just dressed in women's clothing, which is a extra on the DVD if you have it. They replaced it with that. But anyway, I think we talked about everything in regards to Mallrats here.
I could keep going on for another hour, so I like this movie so much.
Well, I mean, we could just recite lines, but I don't think anyone wants to hear us do that.
Like LaForce's hat? How awesome is that hat?
We are getting way too serious.
Yeah, we're getting way too serious here. We're going to move on to Chase and Amy, and this is the movie. First of all, Tony and I talked about this on 22MW, but really it was just an excuse for me to talk about how the town ripped this movie off. So we're actually really going to talk about this movie and not mention that Ben Affleck ripped this off with the town again. So this is my favorite of the movies, and one of the reasons I like it so much is this is where I really started to fall in love with this universe, because it just kept referencing itself, and it was so much fun to go and watch these movies with my friends, and we had all of them on DVD, and we all lived together at this, college years, and we would watch these movies, and every time we would watch one, we would pick something out we missed before. The best example is in this movie when they break up at the hockey rink. They're talking about Rick Darris, and the guy who played Rick Darris is sitting right beside them. And then when they go out, they go out in the parking lot and start yelling, and Alyssa's talking about how she had this sexual relationship with Shannon Hamilton and Gwen Turner. Well, Shannon Hamilton was played by Ben Affleck, who's sitting there as Holden McNeil, and then she played Gwen Turner in Mallrats. So you would just start noticing stuff, and it really came in. She was sisters with Trisha Jones from Mallrats, and they were sisters with the other girl from, I can't remember her name, from who leaves with Rick Darris in the Quick Stop and Clerks, and you just started picking up on all these things, and it was just so cool. I'd never really seen anything like that before. It was a shared universe. Really, laid the foundation for the whole Marvel thing today.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is in a day and age when everyone wants to make a universe out of everything, they're talking about Ghostbusters getting its own universe, Robin Hood getting its own universe. This kind of, I mean, I know you're making a joke, but it kind of did
yeah,
it kind of did
it's
start
half
all
joke,
that.
half truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did create the shared. I remember when I got this on DVD, it came with a little insert, and it showed every character and which high school they went to and what year they graduated. It was just so awesome.
Oh wow!
I was like, oh wow, you could see Brody went to school with this character. I'm not gonna say them because I'll get them wrong and I have to correct myself. But that it was just so cool, and that.
Talk about Caitlin going crazy for fucking the dead guy and Clerks.
Yeah, and that started. Mallrats actually takes place the day before Clerks, and that's that whole scene where she dies in the pool and all that stuff. All that stuff just kind of related together, and they shared it and they talked about that. So it was just really cool, and that was one reason I like. The other reason I like it is because this is just a really good movie. It has an awesome story. The kind of bad acting of Mallrats was gone, and while there's no Oscar winners here, this is much better performances. As I said, Banky is probably my favorite character of all these in all these movies. It was really Brody that kind of built the way for him. Hooper X is probably one of my top 3 or 4 favorite as well, and I just love this movie. I think I would love this movie even if, like I said, with Mallrats, to separate myself. If I sat down and watched this today with no knowledge of anything Kevin Smith, I really think I would still love this movie, and it's my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah, it's not my favorite, but this is one of those movies when I watch it with other people and they don't like it, I do get super irritated and question whether I should still be friends with them. And I know Kurtis always gives me crap about me not liking when people disagree with me, but I think this is one of those cases where I just can't take it.
I think that it was yeah, to me it was better than Clerks, not as good as Mallrats. Still really good, and like it seemed real, and it seems like this was kind of for me the beginning of the end as far as reality in Kevin Smith. Like I think his later movies, I can get into later, just get a little hokey at times, a little cheesy, and like just that scene with the two where they're in the rain and she's walking away and then they're yelling. I mean, that was just a beautiful scene. It's just, and Joey Lauren Adams by far is not the greatest actress in the world, but it was just a really powerful scene for such a like a independent movie.
How did she get in this movie if she's not a good actress?
No clue. No clue how it happened. But yeah, I really dug it. I really liked the comic book stuff, and Ethan Suplee was great in this movie.
Casey Affleck, great too.
Yeah, he was. He really was. I don't know if that was his first movie, but
now I really love the Chasing Amy speech at the end of this movie that Kevin Smith gives. Do you think that that's the best Silent Bob lines in the universe, or no? What else?
Well, I mean, it's not. Most of his other ones are funny just because they're brief and not so much Clerks, but most of the other ones are somewhat humorous just because they're brief and kind of in the moment.
He has a lot of lines in Jay and Bob, and he has a lot of lines in Clerks too. So I don't really agree with that. But
he doesn't have any like long monologues like this.
No, but I think it was kind of negated. I don't know if anyone else picked up on this, but he's talking about this relationship with Amy, and Jay is like, "Well, why didn't I know about this?" Blah blah blah, and he goes, "Well, anyway." And then at the end, they're walking off. He's like, "Why are you always telling that story all the time?"
No. If you watch it with the commentary, Jay points out that makes no sense, and Kevin Smith tells him to like shut up. Or just like something like, "I didn't point that out when we were doing this," or something like that. But
yeah, but I think he talks about it on An Evening with Kevin Smith. He was super frustrated while he was filming that scene because he couldn't get his lines right, and I don't know. I really like that scene, but yeah, you're right. It's a little silly with that other line.
Maybe I think that this movie, and I always talk about the cinematography, but it was little. It's not as confined as Clerks was, but it had that, like, really, to me, that line when they're shooting darts, that scene, it's just that one static shot, and it just drags on for me. I don't know, but
I thought that was a cool shot because they're just sitting there throwing darts, and they're like obviously throwing it at the camera, and the camera never pans away.
Well, it looks like they're throwing it at some kneecaps, but yeah,
that's where the board is.
But that David Klein, who was the DP for a lot of Kevin Smith's movies, I actually worked with on a TV show for about a week and a half. But
name dropping.
No, but here's the thing though. Here's what I was getting into. There's a reason behind me telling this story. Is because I'm working, and I was just watching this guy work, and I didn't know who it was. I just watched it, and just the way he worked with me, and just I was watching just the way he sets up, and I was just so impressed with this guy. Just really impressed by the way he operated, by the way his cameras moved, and all that stuff on this thing. And it wasn't until after we'd already wrapped that I found out who it was, and I was just really blown away because he's grown, is what I'm saying. And I think you can see that as the movies progress that he has, that they look better.
Kevin Smith does too, but we'll definitely talk about that as we go. Grown in some things, maybe not so much in some other areas, but.
Okay, I want to take a 15-second break and let Andy drop some more names, or.
Okay, was that not relevant to?
No, you're fine. Hey, it's a joke. But Tyler Perry, Chad Michael Murray, who else you got?
I know, but
you new to this family, or what?
Yeah. Okay. I think I got married into it.
Well, moving on from Chasing Amy, we're on to Dogma, 1999, and this movie. I don't think I ever saw any other ones in theaters. I think I kind of got into them after they were out. Maybe I'm not even sure. Like I got into them before Chasing Amy came out, so I just can't really remember. But
I remember always seeing like the Chasing Amy video at the video store and having no clue what that was until
yeah, maybe
years
that's
later.
what it was. So like when this came out, I was now a big fan. I had all the other ones on DVD, and I was like, wow, they were gonna have a new movie. That's super awesome. And I went and saw it on opening night, and obviously this was a little bit different movie than the first three we saw. That said, this is my second favorite after Chasing Amy, and this is a movie that just, for me, it really kind of hit home for me because I was going through kind of a part of my life where, I was the religion I kind of grew up in, or that we all grew up in. I was just kind of, this movie just really spoke to me. I don't want to get into a whole religious thing here, but this movie just really spoke to me, and it still speaks to me today. I still, even though I didn't kind of come to the same conclusions it did, it still really speaks to me about just, taking some time to think about these things that are so important to so many people. And on top of that, it's really funny. It's got, for the first time, it has real actors in it, even though Ben Affleck is still in it. But
What? Out of control.
But it's a really good movie. It's a fun movie. It's got the road trip. It's obviously got the Kevin Smith humor, and on top of that, it's got a really interesting kind of mess. It's not even a message. It's just an interesting. It's just telling you to kind of look at things, whether it's life, whether it's religion, whatever. It kind of just gives you a different look at it, and for that reason, I really like this movie a lot.
Yeah, you may or may not remember this movie was all the buzz of Red Lobster bathrooms, but this movie, at least when it comes to the View Askew universe, is my least favorite. And I don't think it's a terrible movie. It's watchable. There's parts of it I really enjoy. I relate with it the least, I think. Again, Affleck's the bomb in all these movies. Carries them all right there on his back. Amazing actors, that he goes on to play Batman later in life. Spoiler. So it's good for me, but I really didn't have too much to say about it because it's just not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was kind of like Curtis. I think that, I remember this like coming out and all the controversy and buzz that surrounded this movie, and I think he talks about this in the Evening With, but I don't think it was really even necessary. It seems like a commercial for Catholicism more than anything else, and it does bashing it. But I dug it. I wasn't crazy excited about it over rewatching it, but I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, to be honest. I like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They did a good job in this, and Rickman, he's always a class act. I don't know. I wish I had more to say because I did rewatch it again, and
I was really surprised when this came out how good Jay was in it. He was really good in this.
Yeah,
compared to the other movies.
Well, don't they talk about that on Evening too? That they told him he had to be he was working with Rickman, so he had to get his crap together.
Yeah,
he was really bad in Clerks, and still funny as Jay, but he wasn't a very good actor in that. And then, Mallrats, obviously he did a better job, but he was still kind of goofy, and he was barely in Chasing Amy. So when he had to come this, and he's in some ways the lead character in this movie, almost or at least second. I was really impressed, still really impressed with how good he was in this movie. I guess my main gripe is I didn't care for the main character in this movie, Bethany, played by Lyndon Florentino, I believe her
which
name
seems
is.
to be a running thing with Kevin. I don't know. I guess Holden McNeil is an exception, but yeah, Dante is not my favorite guy in the world, and T.S. Quint is who?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Tusk in part 2 about annoying main characters, but I'm sorry I'm getting ahead of myself. I just can't wait to talk about Tusk. But that is something that kind of sometimes the main character in some of his movies is usually, but I think that's true of a lot of movies. A lot of movies, the main characters, the straight man, are kind of just living in this universe that everyone else is really creating.
It's really just getting to move the story along, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of like Caddyshack, the kid who cares about the kid.
Exactly. Yeah, like I said, you say it for a lot of movies. So, I think this is really good. Chris Rock is also, he's great at playing Chris Rock in this. And it's just also like I always really liked all the religious kind of mythology. I don't want to get in trouble calling it mythology, but not, the stuff that's kind of not even maybe in the Bible, the angels and some of the stuff that they bring into this. I was always real interested in that stuff, and it was kind of cool to see it here in this movie too. So,
which years later, probably in the last like 5-6 years, I came across this graphic novel or comic book, Preacher, which I don't know if y'all heard. No. And it was, you can tell that he got a lot of this movie from those books. And I don't know, I've read
a lot of that stuff I've seen in the, Metatron and Choirs of Angels and
I'm just
that stuff's in a lot of different things, and it comes from real stuff. It comes from like real books.
I'm just saying about like it's about this preacher who's, anyway, read the books, they're great. But I'm just saying, as far as a lot of the same kind of commentary and self-reflection, that you can tell he was inspired, but you can't read those books and tell that he wasn't inspired by the.
I'd have to read it. I don't know that we have a Ben Affleck Town Chasing Amy situation here, but. All right. Well, Tony, you didn't have a lot to say on Dogma. Anything else?
Nope. I think that's about it for this one.
All right. Now we're moving on to what is my least favorite of the View Askew movies, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Now this, look, I'm not going to say that this movie is fun, but this movie is nothing but fan service if you're a fan of these movies. And hey, I appreciate that. And that there's a lot of funny in this movie. There's some good stuff in it. But it's by far my least favorite of these movies. I didn't even rewatch it for this. I think I maybe watched it like a year ago, and I didn't even care to rewatch it. It's not that great. It's fan service, and once you've seen it a couple of times and said, I know that character, and seen some of the jokes, it's just.
Yeah, you might be right that it's fan service, but I actually watched this last night again, and it was a fun romp.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was fan service, but it broke the fourth wall too a few times. But it was fun, and it was fun, and
yeah, I agree. The beginning and the end are super, super fun. There's some parts in the middle.
I agree with that too,
where it gets a little kind of like, okay, let's move this along kind of stuff. But, even that has stuff trickled in. I like the Will Ferrell character.
That's the worst part of the movie. I don't know if it's him or the Justice. I can't think of the actress.
Shannon
Elizabeth from the American Pie movies. I can't decide which one of them is the worst character and worst performance, but both of them are so terrible.
Well, no, what I like about Will Ferrell's character is when Judd Nelson...
Wait, let me guess. It's that he's stupid, right?
No,
that's your favorite part, right? He's not very smart?
It's when Judd Nelson is making fun of him and repeating the things he had said. That part cracks me up. But
I'm not a Will Ferrell hater by any means, but I would say that he probably was the worst part of this movie.
Yeah, he's so awful in it. That character is so annoying, so terrible. Did you guys pick up on that he's not very smart though? I don't know if you guys got that.
Did you pick up on Jon Stewart only being capable of playing a news anchor?
He was supposed to be the lead in Chasing Amy. So.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this movie. I agree with what Tony said. It starts out good and it ends good, but that's also the biggest fan service parts. It's they started out with them in Jersey, and we go and we see all these characters that we've seen before, Banky and Holden and Dante and Randall, and then at the end we get to see them all in and also the Mark Hamill What-Man and Chronic part is kind of funny. It's not great, but it's decent. And then after that, we get to see even more characters at the premiere. So, but the middle is just it's so long and boring.
I would say Chris Rock's character is actually worse than Will Ferrell's in this movie.
Maybe so. Chris Rock is not great at being Chris Rock in this movie.
What's he in it? He's in it for like a minute, right?
It's just like a.
What was that?
Is he even? How long is he even in it? Like 2 minutes.
Like a nice little chunk, but it's just the same thing as Black Power trying to keep the white man. It's just the same shtick throughout his entire stint in this movie, and it just I don't know, it just kind of fell flat for me more than Will Ferrell did.
Oh, this is by far my least favorite of the movies. Like I said,
to me, like if this was going to be the cap on the View Askew universe, I think that it did exactly what it needed to do. It made the fans happy with revisiting some characters, and it was fun, and I enjoyed watching it and going along for the ride.
I agree.
They ran around a lot.
I'm not going to complain about it. It did wrap it up. Obviously, they ended up unwrapping it to wrap it up again, and then now possibly unwrapping it for a second time to wrap it up for a third time. But I guess we'll talk a little more about that later.
I think we'll talk about it now because I don't think there's anything really more to say on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So, this was supposed to be the end. If you watch An Evening with Kevin Smith, he says it'll be the end. He even kind of makes fun of the fact if it went on longer, it would be too much. But 5 years later, 2006, we got Clerks 2, and this movie came out. I didn't even go see it in the theater. I kind of, even when Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back came out, I was like, yeah, that was awesome, and I had a good laugh and reliving some of those characters. But I was just like, okay, they kind of did all they needed to do with that, and I wasn't super excited to see this. And I saw it when it came out on DVD, and was really blown away by it. Like, this was a really good movie. I was, like I said, thankfully they went back and wrapped it up here again, although we're going to have Clerks 3 maybe in the next 20 or 30 years. But this really wrapped it up a lot better. This movie just... we got to go back and see Dante and Randall again, other than just the cameo. And the end of this movie, I really love. The end gets me every time. It's just great to see them finally kind of graduate and do their own thing. Like I said, the original Clerks, even today, still speaks with me about that fine line of being happy with what you got, but also striving to do more. And this movie kind of takes that to the next step. And I hope in Clerks 3 we get to see where that goes, because I really like the end of this movie where they buy the quick stop, and it's really a nice wrap up to this whole thing, which, like I said, kind of was the message of the slacker generation. And these two slackers that we kind of started this whole universe off with, they've decided that they're going to do that, fill their life dreams and do this. So actually, because of this, I'm excited for Clerks 3, but we don't have to talk about that right now. Let's talk about Clerks 2. Really, really enjoyable movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always fight whether Mallrats or this movie is my favorite, just because it's really, really, really funny. I didn't rewatch it for this because I've seen it like 40 times. But the kid, what's the kid's name?
I always forget
Elias.
Elias, yeah. I always forget
so great, so great. The donkey show and just the story was great. It does get, again, Brian O'Halloran.
He's not going to win an Oscar next week.
No, he's not. But he was serviceable in that. But just his character, I wish he would just shut up every once in a while.
I like Dante.
Yeah, I don't think Dante's a bad dude. I think he's got unlikable qualities, but that's like with most people. There are things I love about you, Andrew, and there's things that annoy me about you.
Why am I just hearing about this?
No, I agree. He's not a perfect dude, and that's one reason I like him so much. Same thing with Randall, is that they have these faults, but but
Randall's got a personality, though.
Right, not everyone has a personality.
I mean, I love this movie. I love everything about it, but again, I do think it gets, and again, I can't stress how much I love this movie because I absolutely do, but it gets a little sappy at times where it's just kind of too much. As far as I remember, there's one where he's just like staring at the Rosario Dawson's character, just she's like dancing or something, and he's just like staring, like he's just so.
To
it's
me,
a little too much.
That scene really works for me. That is one of the best acting jobs of Brian O'Halloran across these movies. I think. Not that it would be hard to gaze at Rosario Dawson and be like, "Oh my God, she's beautiful," but
I agree. It works for me. The end works for me. To me, cheese is cheese, and you're always going to have some cheese in a movie. Cheese works when you have characters you care about and a story you're interested in. Cheese doesn't work when you're trying to use cheese just to get a cheap reaction out of an audience because your characters and stories suck. Here we had the former, and it works for me too.
And even like they break into song and dance, which was it was great. It has no purpose being in that movie, but it's totally awesome. I think. I got a question though. The kid who buys dope from Jay and Silent Bob at the beginning, besides Ethan Suplee, which was great, he was great in this movie. But the other one, was that the same kid at the beginning of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
I don't know that.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but. I agree that if you're going to have a problem with cheese in this movie, that the Jackson 5 song is the time to have a problem with it. Not that, I mean, and I don't. It doesn't bother me. It is weird, the Kevin Smith stuff that he's got, ponytails or whatever you call those things, and he's smiling a lot. But again, because of the characters. I don't know. It doesn't take me out of the movie too much. The movie still really works. This is my favorite and possibly the one of the greatest sequels of all time. It is a totally different movie than Clerks, and but it just takes the characters you love and shows them basically in their 30s, whereas when they were in their 20s, okay, they could still go to school and accomplish things. But when they're in their 30s and still kind of doing the same thing, people are going to show up and make fun of them. It just, I don't know, it totally works on that level for me.
Absolutely. We haven't really got into Kevin Smith's wife being in all these movies. And if you had a choice between Rosario Dawson...
She's only in 2.
What are you talking about? She's in all of them.
Okay, well, the ones we're talking about here in part 1, she's only in 2.
Yeah, fair enough. But I don't know. It just didn't seem like go with Rosario Dawson, right?
Well, money was a factor too. But yeah, it's a pretty. I mean, hey, Kevin Smith did good for himself for a guy who's well, he's not even fat anymore, right? Hasn't he lost a bunch of weight recently?
He's still pretty fat. But as y'all didn't really mention what y'all were laughing about with the Joey Lauren Adams thing, but he dated her and he put her in the movies.
Yeah.
And,
hey.
I mean,
hey, I got no problem with it.
There you go.
So, anything else on Clerks 2?
I feel like we're missing something just because it was, I don't know. There's just so much. I'm really upset that Randall wasn't able to bring Porch Monkey back or take it back.
Yeah, and that movie has all sorts of great stuff that really works, as opposed to like what we're going to see with Dumb and Dumber 2 coming up, to where they just try and do the same shtick 20 years later. I think Kevin Smith really accomplished kind of showing that these characters have grown up a little bit, but still are in this rut and need to find the way that they're going to get out. And with a little help from Jay and Silent Bob, they do that.
Like I said, I'm really looking forward to Clerks 3 because I want to see how that works out. Because I really love the end of this movie. Mm-hmm. As much as I wish it did kind of wrap up the whole thing, because I do think it's somewhat a perfect ending to this series, it did leave me wanting to know more. Greedy me, right, Tony?
Now, I think pretty much people that love movies love trilogies, right? So I want the trifecta here. I want the hat trick.
I want to ask one more thing. Was it, to me, you could have cut out that whole go-kart scene. Was that
no,
relevant to anything?
To me, it's a very important scene. It gets Randall to open up about what's going on. I mean, and it's nice to see them get out. And they leave in the first one to go to the funeral. They go up to the roof to play a little hockey or whatever. But it's just, I don't know. That scene works for me.
Yeah, that's one reason I like this movie is like you said, and let's not give Dumb and Dumber 2 till we see it. But yeah, from the trailer, it looks like they're just going to redo all the same jokes. And in this movie, he redoes a lot of the stuff. They, instead of talking about the Death Star, they talk about Lord of the Rings, and there's a lot of the same story points and beats here. but they're done in a new way, and it totally works. That even though it's a lot of the same stuff, we see, like you said, the rut that these characters are in compared to where they were 10 years ago, and it just because that we see how much they've, even though that they're the same people, kind of, we see how they have changed in 10 years, so it just really works, and that's one of the things I really like about it, is even though that it is similar, a lot of the same stuff, it doesn't feel like it's just being rehashed into a cheap sequel.
No, yeah, okay. Two things on that real quick. I would like to know Elias's standpoint on the Transformers movies. And also, like, Kevin Smith was spot on with that, or I should say Randall, I guess. Randall was spot on with all that Lord of the Rings stuff. I recently saw those movies. Those movies are garbage. They're just spot on. Well done, Randall.
We're gonna have to do that at some point, because I don't hate them as much as you do, but I brought this up before. I'm showing I have a son now, and he's about to be 3, and we're at the age where we're kind of watching this stuff, and we're watching Star Wars and watching Indiana Jones, and like there's been a couple of times where I'm like, because we've watched all this stuff to death, where I'm like, let's hey, why don't we watch this Lord of the you know what? Let's just watch Star Wars again.
Exactly.
Like, I should move on to this. Like, this is a new thing. Like, I'd like to maybe get you interested in it. But, man, is this going to be a long watch. And
it's too much time to invest. I do find, because this movie came out in what year?
2006.
Okay, and I was like 20. I was in my early 30s or 20s, I guess. But I'm like 32 now, so I'm now where I remember watching that and being like, yeah, you're 30, like you should just like kill yourself. I mean, your life is pretty much over. But now that I'm that age, I'm like, when they said we're not that old, and I was just thinking, yeah, you really. But now that I'm 30, I
think like I said about Clerks and Clerks 2, I think regardless of where you are in your life, you can watch these movies and kind of relate. You could have a nice job making a good living, but you wonder, like, hey, should I be doing more? So these movies still speak to me today. And, hey, again, this would have been a great wrap-up because of that whole thing I'm talking about, but it's not going to be. Okay, well, we're going to kind of wrap up our View Askew Part 1 here of our Kevin Smith episode by talking about some of the other stuff that he didn't necessarily direct but are part of the universe. The first is something that I hate, and that's the Clerks animated TV series. I cannot watch this. I even tried to watch. It's so unwatchable to me. This stuff is not funny without swear words and dick and fart jokes and Jay dropping the F-bomb. It's not funny to me. The episodes are very painful to watch. It just really sucks.
I don't know about that. I mean, like with the Judge Reinhold thing. I mean, that's fun. They did a whole anime sequence that was hilarious. I don't know. I thought it was.
I've never even seen all of these, and I have them on DVD, and I've never even seen them all, just because like the first 3 or 4 I watch every time are so awful. I never make it through all of them.
Well, there's only 6 of them. So,
okay, well, I don't even know because I've never watched one because they're so bad.
3 hours of his life.
I know, exactly. Not even 3 hours. They do a lot of interesting things on these that I like, and then even better, I love them with the commentary. I don't think all the episodes have it on the DVD, but a couple of them do. And to hear Kevin Smith talk about them, and to hear him talk about like the animators and point out like things they messed up on, and I don't know, just a lot of fun to watch.
What did he have to do with it? Did he write it? Did he just kind of consult it?
I'm pretty sure he wrote it.
It's all and I like how it's all the original cast members doing the voices. I mean, that's cool.
All right, I guess.
It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I mean, for what it is, which is just 6 episodes of a TV show.
I hate it. It's awful to me. It's really bad.
Nah, it's not that bad.
You're out.
This isn't like me saying. This isn't like me saying one negative thing about mole rats or having a couple gripes against, like, I don't think this is good. I think it's bad.
This is you being mad at nothing. Like, you're just being ridiculous.
I'm not mad at it. Hey, you guys like it, so that's fine. I think we're supposed to like give our opinions on this. Like, and sometimes those opinions
only if they agree with mine.
Sometimes those
we just can't give opinions on other people's opinions. Got you. That's the rule. Okay.
I just said if you guys like it, that's fine. I don't like it. I think it's bad.
All right. So it's not Christmas. We don't have to fight. Okay, take it easy.
So the other thing is that it's not the same style, obviously. Well, there is one thing that is the same style. The missing deleted scene from Clerks is in the same style of this, correct? Where they go to the funeral. In Clerks, if you haven't seen it, Dante and Randall go to Julie Dwyer, that's her name, right? The girl who dies in the pool that's mentioned in both. Mm-hmm. They go to her funeral, and it doesn't show the funeral. They go in, they come running out, and they mention they knocked over her casket. If you got I actually don't have it, but I have seen the clip. If you got the Clerks 10th anniversary, they have this animated scene where it shows what happened in there. You guys have never seen that?
No.
No, wasn't aware of that, no.
Oh, I haven't watched it in a while, so I don't want to say what it happens, but they do knock over the casket.
But I like that's one thing. Being an animation major and all that stuff, where it just you look at it. So I really did enjoy the animation style that they had for this show. I don't know if anyone saw the groovy.
Okay, that's what I was talking about next, because that's obviously a different. I tried to watch this. It's on Netflix. I made it through 35. Not even that. I made it through 25 minutes. This. I shouldn't say Clerks the animated series is awful, because this is awful. This is terrible. It's not funny. The animation is crap. Oh, it's so terrible.
I was watching it in bed and I fell asleep. I was just dozing in and out.
I couldn't make it to the end of it. It was so bad. It was so stupid. I had to stop watching it.
Yeah, I apologize. I forgot all about that being on Netflix and didn't watch it, but now I wish I had, because I know Kurtis recently this year has watched all of Transformers 4, so he should have a high tolerance for pain.
Yeah, but I thought it was really ridiculous.
It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. It's not funny. But I mean, I can just say the same thing.
And I probably could have taken if it wasn't for cartoon Kevin Smith sticking his head at me whenever he chooses.
Every once in a while, this cartoon Kevin Smith, voiced by Kevin Smith, would step in and say I didn't do this part because it's offensive, or that this is the character Jay saying this, not me. I'm tolerant of all people, but it's just really dumb. The whole thing is stupid. The animation is awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad, and I don't know.
It looks like a bad episode of Ren and Stimpy.
But they have done that style with a couple of other animated. They animated the Smodcast. I don't know if anyone saw though, no. But it's the exact same kind of stuff, and it's hard to watch. It is kind of Spumco, Ren and Stimpy.
No,
stuff.
Bad Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
If Ren and Stimpy is decently animated in the style that it's in. That style's not for everybody.
Right.
This looks like just terrible Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
If I tried to animate Ren and Stimpy, this is what it would look like.
You used to be a decent artist, so that might not be so bad.
I haven't drawn in a long time. I've tried a couple of times recently. It's not gone well. You got to stay in practice with that, folks. Okay. If you're good at art, don't stop doing it. Anyway. The only other thing that I have to talk about this universe is the Chasing Dogma comic, which actually kind of just became Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I remember when that came out, and again, when that came out, that was a time when I was really enthralled with this universe, and I was super into it, and I would watch it with my friends, and we got it, and we read it, and there's not really a lot to say about it except that it related back to the movies a lot, and Tim Burton stole part of it for Planet of the Apes. Which you can see or hear about in An Evening with Kevin Smith, which is that's kind of part 2 of the Superman story, right?
I think they're two different stories, but yeah.
Yeah, but they kind of run together.
Yeah.
Based on the Kevin Smith thing. So that was kind of cool, but I don't really have anything else on the View Askew universe. Am I leaving something out?
No, I think we hit on it all.
I don't think so. Probably, but I mean, he's done so much. I mean, with that.
I think there might be some other comics, but I didn't see them. So it's time to start wrapping up part 1 here.
Weren't we doing that 15 minutes ago?
Well, I'm just gonna kind of repeat what I said. Again, this is a universe I really fell in love with. Again, maybe it was just time and place for me. But like I said, most of these movies, I do think that if I sat down and watched them today, I would really like them. Definitely Chasing Amy, definitely Dogma. Maybe not Clerks, but if I did Clerks and Clerks 2 together, then probably so. So Just really enjoyed this universe. This made me a Kevin Smith fan. Not so much what we're going to talk about in part 2. This is what made me a Kevin Smith fan. This is why I still love Kevin Smith, and while I'm not a huge fan of some of the stuff he's done recently, not a hater either, but we'll talk about that coming up. This is what made me love him. This is what made me always support him. This is what made me always make me be a fan of him. Are these movies?
Yeah, I think that it really kind of like sums up like a generation really, and I think that Kevin Smith's a little older than us, by 10 years or so. But for the time and place that I don't know, it just really takes me back to when people went to video stores and just the nostalgia of it more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed revisiting these movies, even if they weren't as great as I remembered them to be in some cases, or even better. It's just I really dug it. I appreciate y'all guys filling me in on this, because otherwise I probably wouldn't watch these movies for another, who knows, 20 years or so.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts are kind of like I've said all along. Is Kevin Smith, I don't think anyone's going to argue that he's even top 75 greatest directors of all time, but he is my favorite director. And these movies are just so special to me. And as Kurtis kind of touched on, I am super loyal to him. And he's one of those 10 guys out there that I just will support and buy and do whatever I can, because he's given me so many great memories. And hopefully maybe some more to come in the future. And again, we'll talk
Tone
more.
doesn't fly Southwest.
You better
Just to
believe
show
I
his
know.
support.
That's right. But mainly because I don't fly, period. But also, we're going to talk about that, about some of his not so great movies next week. And I'm excited about that too, because again, I just love Kevin Smith, and even his bad stuff I enjoyed talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's just something that the three of us, we got about 3 years in between us. I'm going to be 35 here in a couple of weeks, and Tony's going to be 30 next year.
I just turned 32.
Andy just turned 32. That even though we all kind of grew up the same, I think we led very different, maybe high school and college years for sure. And even though we did that, and even though we're three very different people, if you haven't picked up on that, we all really love these movies. And I do think it is kind of because it is a very much just a testament of our generation. And if you're our age and you haven't seen these, then you need to see them, because they are going to speak to you. Maybe not everyone. Maybe you're not going to love everything about them. Maybe it's not even your style of humor, if you're, opposed to getting a little blue or risque. But I would still recommend these movies to anyone who's in that generation, because there is it just sums up our generation very well. And for that reason, I still love these, and I'll continue to watch them. I don't know that people are who are maybe a little bit younger than us would get them. I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe it speaks to them too. I'm not hip to the younger generation. So.
What? Tell him, Steve Dave.
So join us next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about Kevin Smith, get into some of his other films, and we're gonna lead it off with his brand new film that's new in theaters right now, although maybe not still in some theaters. Tusk, starring Justin Long. So we're going to get into that next week. Come back and join us. Also, make sure to check out Tony's show, 22 MW. Even when I'm not co-hosting with them, you should still check it out. Tony, what do you got coming up on 22 MW?
Well, you can currently check out our past week's episode where we took a look at The Judge, the new Robert Downey Jr., Robert Duvall movie. And then coming up this next weekend, we have a very special episode, something we've never done before, which I'm pretty excited about. And I don't want to really talk about it here and now, but please tune in and check it out.
All right. Well, again, join us next week. We're going to talk more about Kevin Smith. Andy will be back with us. But until then, see ya.
See ya.